Welcome back. Then status quo in terms of the markets, but plenty of stocks moving around as we see Max Financial. That stock has spiked up in the last few minutes. So individual stocks are doing well in an otherwise weak market. But let's move on then. The government is negotiating additional loans from multilateral institutions to fund some of the Atmanirbhar Bharat package announcements. Sapna Das joins us to fill us in on more on that. Sapna?
Well, we are clearly given to understand the government indeed is negotiating additional loans from all the four multilateral agencies, the World Bank, the ADB, the AIIB, as well as the New Development Bank. We are given to understand that possibly the quantum of the additional loans may be to the tune of around $3.5 billion. In case these negotiations come through, then the total funding for COVID from these multilateral agencies for India would be as high as around $8.5 billion. Around $5 billion had already been raised in the month of during the months of April, May. Having said that, interestingly, $3 billion out of this additional $3.5 billion is likely to be targeted towards MSME interventions, which the government has announced. If you also look at the Atmanirbhar package, for instance, there's a new MSME scheme wherein the government has guaranteed up to 20% of additional lending by banks to take care of any potential defaults by MSME borrowers. And there's also a corpus that's being spoken about. The cabinet has already given a nod to that. 41,600 odd crores is the kind of funding that will be required over the next 3 years on the scheme in case there's a spike in the NPAs on the additional loans being given by the banks to the MSME borrowers. So some part of this additional amount that will be coming through the multilateral agencies will take care of that side of the expenditure for the government. So basically the resources will flow through the budget and will help the government raise money. It's a kind of a resource mobilization to take care of the COVID expenditure. And this may not be the last of the announcements as far as this kind of a secure credit line from the multilateral agencies are concerned. We are looking at an amount of $8.5 billion odd at this moment, but some more may be coming through over the next few months as well.
Got it. Thanks so much, Sapna. Well, let's move on then. And what could be a blow to the IT industry? In fact, if it happens, the Wall Street Journal reports that US President Donald Trump is mulling suspending a number of employment visas, including H-1B. Kritika joins us to tell us, what this report states. Kritika?
Well, what the report is indicating is that the H-1B visa, along with the work visas like H-2B, J-1 and L-1 visas, are likely to be suspended beginning October 1st onwards. So generally, these new visas, specifically H-1B visas, are issued in the beginning of October. Now, we've been talking to our sources within IT companies, large IT company CEOs, to understand what this could possibly indicate. We understand that lobbying bodies have given an inclination to these companies that visa suspension is likely soon. They did get a notification from the government that H-1B visa is under review. So since then, they have been prepared. They are, however, unclear on the timeline of suspension and how long it will last. Will it last only in that period of the coronavirus pandemic, given that Trump is reportedly looking at this to overcome the unemployment jitters in US. So is it going to be only temporary? Is it going to be a long-term suspension? We don't know that yet. However, what we do have a clarity on is that the impact will be on new visas and possibly renewals of visas could also be impacted. So that essentially means that employees who are working there on, say, 5-10-year contracts, whose contracts are ending now, or the visas are expiring in 2020, those could possibly be impacted. No formal notification has come in to NASSCOM or any Indian IT company so far, as this is still under review and is being mulled by the government. Once there is clarity on that, then we should perhaps see the exact fine print of this.
All right, Kritika, thanks a lot for that. Well, moving on then, bank CEO tenures could be capped at 10 to 15 years if a draft paper on the governance in commercial banks is finalized in the current form. Now, RBI has invited comments on this discussion paper by July 15th. Ritu Singh joins us to tell us what this means for the industry. Ritu?
RBI has released a discussion paper on governance in commercial banks where it proposes to cap the tenure of bank CEOs to 10 to 15 years It says a promoter or a major shareholder of a bank can continue as a whole-time director or CEO up to 10 years, which it believes is adequate time to ensure stability in operations and transition of leadership. Two, it also believes this will help achieve two objectives. One, separation of ownership from management, and two, reinforce a culture of professional management in banks. Now, for non-promoter, non-large shareholders, they can continue as whole-time directors or CEOs of a bank for up to 15 years. They will also be eligible for reappointment at the end of another 3 years, but during that 3-year tenure, they cannot be associated with the bank at all. Now, banks where whole-time directors or CEOs have already hit this 10 to 15-year limit, they have to comply with RBI guidelines within 2 years or at the end of the current tenure, whichever is later. Remember, these are only draft guidelines and comments have been invited by the 15th of July. Now, Morgan Stanley believes this will immediately impact Kotak Mahindra Bank, where Uday Kotak has been at the helm for 17 years and his term is up for renewal at the end of December 2020. AU Small Finance Bank could also be impacted if RBI considers the tenure even before it converted into a small finance bank. Jefferies also believes Kotak will be the first private bank to be impacted. AU Small Finance Bank's promoter will have another 7 years tenure left, it believes, and Bandhan Bank, Federal Bank and RBL Bank will have anywhere between 5 to 10 years to comply. It believes largely public sector banks, of course, will not be impacted because they already see frequent CEO changes.
Okay, thanks a lot for that update, Ritu. Well, moving on then, Biocon and Mylan have announced a US FDA approval for insulin glargine injection. That's Semglee. We spoke to Kiran Majumdar-Shaw, Executive Chairperson of Biocon, and she says that this is a big milestone and could pave a way for many large opportunities for the company. Let's listen in.
For us, this is a very big milestone that has culminated on a long and winding journey, as you know. Entering the US market was extremely important for Biocon. So we believe that this could now open the way to a very large business opportunity for Biocon in the years ahead. This is a very large segment in the US. It globally, as you know, glargine is an $8 billion opportunity. We have our eyes on a pretty decent market share. Of course, both Eli Lilly and Sanofi do have an advantage because Eli Lilly has a much more comprehensive insulin portfolio, and of course, Sanofi is a very entrenched player in the US. So it will take us time, but we are very confident that we will get a decent double-digit plus market share in the US before long. We already said that we were going to launch in the second quarter of this fiscal, and we are on track for that.
And Godrej Consumers has handed over its leadership to Nisaba Godrej. Now, in her first interview to CNBC TV18, she talks about how the company is keeping up with production and demand in the current lockdown situation. Listen in.
In India, we're up to sort of 90% production levels. And the way we've sort of looked at it is, really do what matters, go where the demand is and sort of get it done. It's still a sort of chaotic situation on the ground, but this is, I think, where, culture, excellent execution come in to deliver what the customer needs. So, our biggest category across the company, for GCPL is health, which is hygiene, and that's 30% of our portfolio. And in India, it's 45% of our business, correct? And consumers really don't want to take a chance with malaria or dengue or getting sick. We know our hospitals are full. So those products, we are struggling to keep up with demand. Automation in India, we've already sort of spent 50 crores putting up more CapEx, especially for where the demand is high in, products like HI and hygiene, where, we are really racing to sort of meet the demand.
Okay, there's a bit of a recovery underway actually. The Nifty is now approaching the 9,800 odd mark. So that's pretty good news from where we started off. It's more than 230 points from the low point of the day. Pretty good news out there. But the real strength that we're seeing is in the broader markets. If you get the advanced decline ratio up for you, you'll see that that's narrowing in. The mid-cap index, get the intraday chart of that. It was down more than 1%, 1.3% odd, just around an hour and a half back. The advanced decline ratio is getting a little bit closer to each other, and the mid-cap index is now down less than 0.5%. So keep an eye out on that. That's telling you individual stocks are still doing well in an otherwise weakish market, almost at 9,800. Let's see whether or not gains can be held on, and in the last couple of hours, whether or not the bulls can end this with some bit of a flourish or the bears come back. For the time being, we'll slip into a short break. Up next, Karnataka is said to amend its land laws to voe investments in farms and industries. More details when you come back.